Hey guys, today we're going to talk about more basic colored pencil usage. We're going to talk about gradients, layering with multiple colors, and blending technique. Today you're going to need a regular pencil, your colored pencils, and an eraser, plus your paper that you used when you did this demonstration over here. We're going to do today's demonstration on this side of the paper. Go ahead and make a title for yourself called Gradients on this side. Some of you are probably wondering, what is a gradient? These are gradients. Gradients are colors that fade from one color into another color. And we can do gradients with colored pencil really beautifully. And this is something that you can use in your artwork to transition from a shadow color into the hue color that the object has. And so what we're gonna do is we're gonna work on how to make gradients. Alrighty guys, go ahead and grab your colored pencils. I want you to go with a red, an orange, and let's do a yellow. These should be colors that are analogous, meaning they are next to each other on the color wheel. Okay, so here's the color wheel to kind of help you out if you need it. And the first thing I want to do is I want to draw a longer shaped rectangle here. So I can use if I have like a business card lying around, which I just happen to have a business card here on my desk, I can use that to help me draw out a rectangle. You can also use the colored pencil box like we did the other day. All right, so here is my rectangle. Give you guys a second to do that. So to begin our gradient, I'm going to decide where I want my colors to be. I'm going to put my red on the left side, my orange kind of in the middle, and my yellow on the right side. The idea behind a gradient is to have a smooth transition of color. So smooth transition from one color into another color into another color. And we do this by using smooth shading and layers. So I'm going to start with the red. And what I want to do is I want to create a super light line for myself. I'm not even sure if you guys can see that, but a very light line for myself. And that's just to note where the red is going to start to get lighter, so that way it can transition really nicely into the orange. And so I'm just going to begin shading from this side all the way up till that line, but I'm going to not put as many layers of the red where I put that line, because remember, I want it to transition into orange. All right, so far as you can see, I've got like my more saturated red color, and then it kind of lightens and lightens even more as I approach that really light line that I've created there. And so I'm going to continue to layer more red over here where I want that to be the truest red. I'm not changing my pressure. My pressure is always light. I can build up as many layers as I need to in order to intensify that color. But I don't want to build up the same amount of layers all the way across, because I want to be able to blend my orange into my red color. So speaking of blending the orange into the red color, I can go ahead and grab the orange right now, and I can begin to blend in some orange. And I'm going to overlap the red and the orange right here, because as I transition, I'm I'm gonna wanna have the orange kind of stop right about here. And I made that line even lighter. I can come back and do it with the yellow so I can see it a little bit more, because I'm gonna blend my yellow all the way over starting there. So I'm gonna begin to blend my orange in, and I'm gonna go all the way into the red till about right here. I'm gonna start to layer my orange. Now the orange is gonna get pretty intense right here in the middle, and then like I did with the red, I'll start to lighten up my layers as I approach this line that I've created here. Okay, now that I have my orange really nice and built up there in the middle, I'm going to come back with my red and I'm going to make this transition here a little bit more smooth. In order to make this smooth, I do need to overlap these colors, the red and the orange, so that way you don't see the transition. It just kind of looks like it fades from one color into the next. So I did go and grab my orange again, and I'm gonna kind of work over the red that I just laid down. And I'm gonna come back with my red again and work on layering some more to intensify the color. And I'm gonna work on blending these two together again, right here. Again, coming back with the orange. All right, and so this transition looks pretty smooth to me. I could go back and continue to add some more red right here and overlap it with some orange, but I think it looks nice and smooth. Now what I can do is I can start to come from the other side and bring the yellow into the orange, so that way I can blend this transition really nicely. I'm going to come back with my orange and start to blend these two into each other. Now when you're trying to blend a lighter color and a darker color into each other, you need to be a little bit light-handed with the orange or the darker pencil. Be cautious with how much you add, because you can't take it away, but you can always add more. I'm going to come back with the yellow and blend the yellow back into the orange. Do a little bit more work with the orange on top of the yellow. Again, I'm using a really light hand, super light hand, because the yellow is so light. I don't want to overwhelm the yellow with the orange. All right, and there you have it, a really nice smooth transition from red to orange to yellow. All right, now we're going to talk about layering and layering multiple colors. So go ahead and give yourself this title, and I want you to start by drawing 2 boxes. Alrighty, now that you have 2 boxes, I want you to grab your yellow colored pencil, and we're going to start by creating 1 layer of colored pencil using our yellow colored pencil. Alrighty, so we have about 1 layer of yellow colored pencil there. On the second box, we are going to do numerous layers. Let's shoot for 6 layers. So here we have 6 layers built up in this square. So you can definitely tell the difference between the 2 squares. This one definitely has a much higher intensity. The saturation is deeper of the color. This one, we still see a lot of the white of the paper. This one, we don't see very much white of the paper at all. So the more layers that you build up, the more intense your color is going to become. Remember, pressure is not a factor. Pressure is not a factor. It's all about layering, so that way you get better coverage. Next, I want you to make another square right here. And we're going to layer 2 colors right on top of each other. When we use colors, it is important to layer colors that are similar to each other or even different from each other in order to create new versions of colors. You guys may have only have a 12 count of colored pencils or even a 24 count of colored pencils, and so your color choices are a little limited. And so in order to create more interesting versions of color and more variety, you're going to have to layer your colors together. So I'm going to use yellow and orange to create a more interesting version of a color that resembles orange. Now, as I do this, I am using my colors interchangeably. So I'll do a layer of yellow, a few layers of yellow, then a few layers of orange, and then I'll come back and do some more yellow and maybe some more orange. So by overlapping these layers on top of each other and changing color, I am creating a new color. We're doing something called optical mixing. Now, the more layers that I put down, the more interesting and intense this color is going to become. Now, if I were to have just created a box with the orange color, it wouldn't look as versatile and interesting as this color. As a matter of fact, let's just go ahead and create a small box of just orange to kind of do a comparison between the two. Alrighty, so as you can see, we have our regular orange here, and then we have our two colors, our yellow and our orange mixed together here. Now, I can't achieve this color orange with this color pencil alone. Combining these two color pencils is going to give me a new color that I would not have been able to achieve with this set of colored pencils. If you have bigger sets of colored pencils, you can achieve a lot more colors based on the colors that just come in the set. But because we have smaller sets of colored pencils, we have to get a little bit more creative and mix our colors together to achieve a wider range of color from what we're working with. So as you can see, this is just one color. So while one color is okay, two colors is definitely way better. Now let's talk about layering more than two colors. And I think for this one, I want to use my yellow and my two greens. Now, I can create some really interesting effects the more colors that I choose to pair together with each other. If you ever look at an object, you're never going to see just one color. You're going to see so many colors, so many variations of color within that object. And so the more colored pencils that you use in order to optically blend, the more realistic your color choices and your shading to represent that object are going to be. So let's play around with these three colored pencils and applying layers of them. So as you can see, here I'm trying to create a darker color that fades up to a lighter color. And so combining these colors in varying amounts of layers and trading out the colors and overlapping them as I build the layers is going to create a really interesting appearance of fading from one color into like, let's say, the shadow of an object per se. All right, so there you have it. I have my lightish yellow-green color mixed together and fading into, let's say, like an area that would be in shadow. So this is three colors with shadow. Now let's talk about blending for shadows. When we see an object in space, meaning an object that is on the table in front of us or an object that we're viewing in a picture, that object is affected by light. Light is hitting that object and it's illuminating one side while the other side of that object is in shadow. So when we try to portray shadows, choosing colors is going to be really important in how we portray those shadows. Let's reference back to the color wheel for a minute. When we did our color wheel, we learned that colors that are opposite each other on the color wheel are called complementary colors. The complementary colors are the perfect colors for creating shadows because when these colors are mixed together in layers for optical mixing, they create a darker brownish shadow look. Using complementary colors is much nicer looking than using a black color, and we're going to kind of show you what that looks like. So for creating shadows, like I just said, we want to use complementary colors for the shadow, not black. And we're going to do examples of using complementary colors and using black. Let's start out with yellow and violet. Yellow and violet on our color wheel are complementary colors because they sit across from each other on the color wheel. So what we're going to do is we're going to have these two colors overlapping in the middle to kind of show how they create a shadow color. Then we're going to do the same thing with black. So in this first box here, I want you to take your yellow colored pencil and I want you to shade about half of this upper section right here. Okay, as you can see, I've done a good few layers. We have nice intense color. Now I'm going to take my violet and I'm going to shade the other half. Alrighty, so now that I have the other half shaded with violet, what I'm going to do is right here in the middle, I'm going to start to bring the violet over to the yellow and the yellow over to the violet. All right, so there's a few things that we can learn here. First of all, we can learn that covering a lighter color with a darker color, we're going to be able to see what we're doing a little bit better than covering a darker color with a lighter color. We can still see that this is creating a brownish color just as well as this one. But you know, depending on how you want to layer these colors is going to give you a very different effect. So remember that layering, starting with a lighter color and then moving to a darker color is going to give you a much different outcome. Okay, so just keep that in mind. Now also, notice that these two colors are like brownish in color. They could be a really nice shadow. Now let's look at black. And now let's find our black colored pencil, and we're going to do the same thing. We're going to shade over this middle section where these two colors meet with the black. All right, a few things. Yes, black does make that a much deeper color, but what it doesn't do is it doesn't provide the opportunity to see depth within a shadow. So by using the black, essentially what we did is we totally flattened that area of color. There is no dimension, there is no depth. Therefore, it would make for a really flat looking shadow. However, using the complementary color, meaning purple on yellow or yellow on purple, is going to give us much more dimension. The shadow is going to be much more subtle. It won't look flat, it will look dimensional. Let's go ahead and try the same thing for our other combinations of complementary colors. Alrighty, again, so notice how when we combine these two complementary colors and overlap them, we create a much more interesting, darker version of these two shades. It kind of mixes together and optically creates a version of brown. Let's do the same thing, just like we did over here, but let's do it with black. So once again, the black totally covers up the color. You can't really see through it. There's not much high quality color coming through. It kind of flattens it. It doesn't do it any favors. So again, complementary colors are going to be the better option. Let's go ahead and do the last combination, which is blue and orange. Again, as you can see, complementary colors are making for much more interesting shadows than the black probably will. But let's go ahead and finish this and do the example with the black. Again, as you can see, the black just kind of covers up the color. You can't really see the color through it. And so it would end up making it look flat instead of dimensional, as if you were trying to create shadows. So let's just make some notes for ourselves that this is what we want, and we don't want this. So here we have black, and here we have the complementary colors.